Hi guys, thanks for coming back for more whole wellness. Today's topic is inspired by a conversation I overheard. Yes, I'm basing this video on something I overheard, but the point is still the same. I overheard this conversation between two women at work. And I don't know either of these women really well. I know that they're kind of more than just acquaintances. I would hesitate to maybe call them friends because I don't think they're really involved in each other's personal lives, but they've gotten to know each other through work, and I know they've went to lunch a couple of times. And what I overheard just struck me because I'm finding this pattern in a lot of places, not just in-person conversations I'm overhearing and things that I'm hearing people say. I'm also seeing it on social media and in print and on television. And to be quite honest, it's something that I guess you could call as a pet peeve of mine. But I also think that it's not just a pet peeve of mine. I think that there's really something to this. As I've been on my journey to better my spiritual, mental, physical, and emotional well-being, there's so many different facets to that journey and so many different avenues and aspects. It's like, when I started this channel, I had no idea where to start. I figured the narcissist angle was probably a good place to start for me personally, because that's what motivated me to start my journey to wellness, is the significance and the profound effect that the narcissists have had on my life, and me getting to the point where I'm at, or where I was, where I started my healing and journey towards health and wellness. So my point is this. I overheard this conversation, and the pattern is this. This is where I'm going with this. So what I'm noticing is people in general are, and this relates to living with intent and not living with intent, kind of going through the motions of life and not really paying attention. People are getting way too comfortable with, excuse my French, bitching. People are getting way too comfortable with just whining and complaining and putting people down. And you find yourself in this cycle and spiraling downward. And I hesitate to show my fingernails on screen because they really need help. I was chewing on them watching a movie last night, and as you can see, this beautiful color from Olive and June, it's called SG. It's like no, this isn't SG. This is called Starry Night, I think. Oh, I wish I had it handy with me to go grab. But it's a beautiful color. It's like a charcoal, not quite black, but it's got fine sparklies in it. This is so embarrassing. That's the finger. Those are the fingers I was chewing. Are any of these nails in decent shape to show you the color up close? None of them are, sorry. But that was just me chewing my nails last night. Sorry. So when I point and show my hands in this video, apologies up front. Y'all know by now, I don't really care too much about image. I paint my nails, and most of the time they look nice. It just so happens that I was biting them during a movie last night. So be it. So getting back to the topic, Lord, how I can derail, huh? So I've noticed a pattern, right? And it's prevalent on social media, and it's prevalent in person. Like, I'm just watching people. I'm in observation, and I'm hearing people are getting, well, and I know the last couple of years with the pandemic and stuff that things have been tough. And what's so funny is that so many people who I know are going through some stuff, some legit stuff, they're keeping their mouth shut. They're not out there just whining and whining and whining. One person in particular that comes to mind is a former coworker of mine. I think I've mentioned her before in a video. In February was the 1-year anniversary of her husband's death, his sudden loss from his very sudden stage 3, I think, cancer diagnosis. And he declined rapidly and was lost 1 year ago. And prior to that, about a year prior to that, her daughter had been diagnosed with breast cancer, and her daughter has been fighting that, and it is in remission right now, but it's this constant battle because it keeps coming back. They've been dealing with that for a while. And then her husband died last year in February, and then her dad died, I believe she said, in May. And then her mother-in-law died in November or December, I think. I mean, this woman has experienced tremendous trauma over the last 2 years. She's been through the ringer, so to speak. And she doesn't whine one bit. And she's been through the ringer. This chick is tough. She says, and I think it was getting to her, the last contact I had with her, where she had it up to here with people saying, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you get up every day. And she is just had up to here with people saying that to her, because her point is, what choice do I have? What choice was I given? And I get that. I can understand her frustration with people saying that. So, getting back to my point, there are people out there in the world who are legit dealing with stuff, and I'm not talking about you. So, forgive me, please, if you feel like I'm addressing you. I'm not. If you have legit stuff you're going through, your bills aren't getting paid, you've recently lost your job, you have sick family members, you have a troubled child that's going through something, and, I'm not talking about legit concerns. I specifically, in this video, am addressing the tendency of people to whine and complain and bitch and moan about stuff that, number one, either isn't any of their business, so what's the point of whining about it, or two, something that they can't do anything about anyway, or doesn't affect them in any way, shape, or form, or might affect them in a minor way, but, there's a better way, or there's an appropriate way, or an more applicable way, or more effective way for them to handle it, or address it, or try to change. That's what I'm talking about, is those people. So the conversation I overheard yesterday started out with the two gals touching base, basically, about how they were doing, and exchanging stories that they had both recently been to the doctor, and how they're both on blood pressure medication, and how the doctor had told her that, she's got to find some way to relax, and then it got into anxiety and the way the world is, and something about people not wanting to work, and so on and so forth. In fact, I jotted a couple notes down as I was listening to their conversation, and honestly, I wasn't spying. I was in my office. They were right outside my door. So it just happened to be that I heard them. And it's not like I've not had this thought before, and this observation. That is kind of going back to my point again. This seems to be a trend. It's just that I'm observant of it, and it's on the forefront of my brain. So when they started this conversation, it was like, here we go again. And so I jotted down a couple thoughts in preparation for this video, because I thought, all right, this is something we need to talk about. We need to nip this in the bud, right? So let's stop. Let's stop just bitching for the sake of bitching. Let's stop having conversations with people. Let's be mindful of our conversations. Let's stop having those conversations wherein they are not productive, where they are not sharing in a productive way or a kind way. Let's stop having conversations with acquaintances, with family members, with friends, whoever, where it's just a process of bitching for no reason, with no accomplishment and no goal setting and no changes made. If you want to change something, if you don't like something the way it is, do something different. You've all heard the quotes before. I don't understand people who just every other conversation or every third conversation, they've got something negative to say, something to whine about. And yet, they're not the first person to step up to the plate and try to make changes or try to help others. You know, so if you're finding yourself, and here's the thing, this is not addressing, and I'm not saying that high blood pressure or panic attacks or something are not legit, or anxiety or anything like that. These are conditions that can be inherited, that can be caused by any number of things. I'm not talking about that. What I'm specifically talking about is this mindless, not paying attention to what you're putting out into the world. You know, these conversations are putting out into, if it's two people, if it's a group of people, it doesn't matter. One person or two people are putting out into the world, are vocalizing, are spreading crap, negativity, bad vibes. You know, it's just bringing people down, even if it's just one person you're having a conversation with. Now, again, disclaimer time, I'm not talking about if you're legit going through something. Let's say you're having a fight with your spouse and you're talking with some friends or a friend, or you're having a roundtable discussion about a plan of attack or how to handle things or where to go from here. Or if you're, if you have a child who's going through something and you're talking to a friend about how to handle it. Or if you're a divorcee and you're talking to a friend about your spouse and how to handle the struggles that you're dealing with that spouse. There are friendships and there are loved ones who are supportive and there to be a shoulder to cry on and try to give reasonable, fair, respectful advice and input with your best interest at heart and in mind. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about people going willy-nilly out into the world and just every person they talk to, they're just bitching to bitch. That's what I'm talking about. So this woman who had, these two women that had this conversation, and this is what's, you know, motivated this video today, is one of the women was my coworker, and she's a super, super nice person. Probably one of the nicest people I've ever met. She's super sweet. And so she was at work. We were at work. And the person she was having the conversation with was a client who just happened to stop in to drop off some stuff. And they had developed a friendship, but it's not an excuse me, an intimate relationship where they're involved in each other's personal lives. They know a little bit of personal stuff about each other, but they don't go to family events together and stuff like that. It's not that kind of friendship. It's not that intimate. And those are the intimate relationships where talking to someone for a shoulder to cry on, for support, for advice, for input, for counsel, you know, those are different kinds of conversations. I'm talking about you're at work and you're just talking openly where everybody can hear you, and you're poisoning everybody else with your negativity and your bitching and whining and complaining. You see it in the grocery store, you see it at the gas station, you see it everywhere you go. People are just having willy-nilly conversations with strangers, with acquaintances, with whoever, people on the street, shopkeepers, you know, business owners, where it's just you know, there's, you know, and here's the truth. When I heard this conversation between these two women, from my perspective, I'm like, I'm going through the motions and the topics of what they're talking about. I'm like, okay, so you have high blood pressure. Your doctor's telling you got to find some way to relax. Identify what really is your problem to own. A lot of her stress, I think, has to do with work. So that's her boss's problem to own. It's not hers. You know, are people really concerned that they're going to lose their job if they don't do this or if they don't do that or if they don't say the right thing or whatever? So what? If someone's job is at stake or that valuable because you might say the wrong thing, I mean, people screw up. You're human. What's the big deal? Who cares? I mean, let me stop there for a second and go back and say that was me before, truthfully. Like, that's why I can speak to this, I feel, because that was me. Like, I would work long hours. I would work extra hours. I would feel very obligated to do A, B, and C because that's what I felt like I had to do. No one ever told me I needed to do that. In fact, when I look back on my experiences with work, that's the only way I really can sit here and say, why stress about it? Because I've learned over the years most of my stress and anxiety has been self-induced. It's been self-induced. And that's the point of this video, is let's take a moment when we realize, let's just be mindful. Let's live with intent, right? Let's be mindful. Let's just stop, think back and say, okay, why did I talk about that? Why was I bitching about that? Why was I moaning about that? Why am I anxious? Why am I feeling stressed? So on and so forth. And stop. Pull over the side of the road. Go into the bathroom and close the door. Do whatever it is you need to do. Step outside of work for 5 minutes. Just find yourself some solitude, some quiet, just for 4 or 5 minutes. It doesn't take much. Plug your ears with tissue or whatever you got to do. Set the timer on your phone to find a few minutes of quiet. Close your eyes, relax. Relax from the top of your head, focus and concentrate. Relax your face, relax your neck, relax your shoulders, all the way down, just relax. Focus on your breathing and breathe deeply. Count up to 10. Pause for a few seconds. Concentrating on your breathing, breathe in and breathe out. Picture yourself in your most relaxed, beautiful location, wherever that may be, whether it be the beach in Bahamas, or if you imagine, you know, scaling a giant tree in the Congo, or whitewater rafting, or whatever your thing is that brings you peace and joy and the ultimate relaxation. Just picture yourself there. Picture no one else there. Just picture yourself immersed in this beauty of this place where it's quiet in your head, quiet in your mind, quiet in this place, and breathe in and breathe out. And then start at 10 and count backwards down to 1. Once you do that exercise, identify one thing in that moment that you're getting worked up about. What is driving you nuts? What is making you stressed in that moment? When you step away, what caused you to step away? What was it? What is the straw? Like, I know for me, I told you in a prior video about why I had to leave work that one day. I felt like I was going to have a breakdown. I felt my heart was racing. I couldn't breathe. I mean, and ask yourself, is this really that important? Are you having an emotional reaction to some situation or experience you're going through? Are you taking it personally? Are you investing too much energy or thought into whatever is going on, whatever's happening? Is it yours to own? Does it affect you in any way? If you're just afraid that it might affect you, it doesn't affect you directly. That's the answer to the question. You don't want to get 10 steps ahead of yourself, worrying about something that may or may not happen or affect you. Stop for a second and don't own what does not belong to you. Let it go. Let it go. Do yourself a favor and find peace. Just try to relax. Try to focus on what is yours to be concerned about, what is yours to be affected by directly, not 15 years down the road, or, you know, like someday this might be a problem for me or might not be a problem for you. Focus on your own business. Focus on what you can do to change the situation, if you can do anything. And if you can't and you don't own it, let it go. Let it go. The medications, the stress, the problems, and everything else that's surrounding the root of the problem, it's not worth it. It's not worth it because it does affect you from the inside out. It poisons you from the inside out. Let's be mindful of our conversations with people, even with the mailman. Let's just be mindful, live with intent. And you know what? If you're going through something and you're seriously having a concern, a legit issue, why go around bitching about it? Find a trusted friend. If you don't have one, a trusted family member, a counselor, a preacher, a nurse, whoever that can kind of walk you through and help you with your best interest at heart, what you're going through. Otherwise, if it's not something you own and something that's going to affect you directly, let it go. Let it go. You can't do anything about the guy next door who's not working and sitting at home smoking pot and he's collecting unemployment benefits. There's nothing you can do about that. Even if you're a business owner, the best you can do is keep good records, respond to the state, there's nothing you can do. So why get upset about it? Vote in your next community or state or federal election. There's only so much you can do, but why get upset about, why own, and why emotionally involve yourself on a personal, spiritual, mental level in that person's business? You're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, and it's not worth it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it to you. It's not worth it to your loved ones, but most importantly, it's not worth it to you. Going back to whole wellness, you can't share your gifts with the world unless you are present and healthy yourself. So do us all a favor. Share your gifts, but start with you. Take care of you. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care, guys.